Welcome everyone back to another episode of Q&A with Sharon's son George. I was my mother's caregiver as she was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Unfortunately, she passed on 1/1/2020, but we started Together for Sharon.com in her memory. Today's guest is somebody who I've known for some time, but feel like we just need a lot more of her in our life daily. So she's the CEO of Parkinson Voice Project, and again, someone I think is so critical at this point in time to have on, because I think we are touching on a very important topic that sadly my mother went through, but I find interesting. I don't see a lot or enough out there except for you, which is amazing. So welcome, Samantha, to the show. So honored to have you today.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. I appreciate everything that you're doing, and I love the cover of your book.
Oh, thanks. So it means a lot to me. And when I think of some of the tougher times with my mom, I think of a lot of the work that you do, because I think it's very critical as a caregiver. I didn't know what I was prepared for. I had no clue what I was doing during it. But if I had known more about your incredible, inspiring work at the time, I think it would have changed our lives forever. And that's why we have this show. It's so we can help awareness, but there could be even just one person out there, even a family member that wasn't aware of the, again, inspiring work you do in the organization. So let's change that today. If you could tell us a little bit about not just your background, but your connection maybe to Parkinson's.
Well, I am a speech language pathologist, and I actually don't have a connection to Parkinson's. People are always asking me why I started Parkinson Voice Project. By the way, we started in December of 2005.
Oh,
So we're getting close to our 20th anniversary. So
congratulations.
I'm happy about that. But I was born with a cleft palate and had a lot of speech therapy as a child. And I think that's probably what motivates me in this area. People with Parkinson's really can get better. They have the ability to improve their speech, to improve their swallowing, but early intervention is very important. And Parkinson Voice Project, as far as I am aware, we are the only nonprofit organization solely dedicated on improving speech and swallowing. And we need to get the word out, because 90% of people with Parkinson's struggle with their speech and their swallowing, and swallowing disorders can be life-threatening. So we really do need to work hard to get the word out about it, that they can be treated, because early intervention is very important.
I want to thank you for your efforts and whole organization, because on social media you have an incredible presence. Like I said, I thought you could be unique because it's the only real out there one that's really tackling this as a main focus. But I see you 24/7, or at least the posts, and anytime I see it, I share, because I think it's again so important. And actually, to be honest, and we're very honest here on the show, I actually was supposed to have speech therapy myself as a child. I always say I just mumble because I'm tired working all day, but thankfully I still was successful as a lawyer and a police officer and in the PhD field as a professor. But I think that it really helps everyone, not just individuals with Parkinson's. So that's why it's such an important topic. And thank you again for that. Maybe we could
Well,
try to really explain to everyone out there what the mission is. Actually, I'll share the screen now, and we can actually take everyone through the website. But before we do that, I want to thank you again for your time and commitment and support and Together for Sharon. Everyone listening, if you go to togetherforsharon.com and you scroll down to interviews, you'll be able to see much more in depth with the CEO and, of course, founder of Parkinson's Voice Project, and also contact information. So just want to thank you for that. And I always joke with everyone, say we met probably a year ago. It's incredible how quickly time goes, how fast. So here's the most important area, everyone listening. Please visit parkinsonvoiceproject.org. Please share it. And now, if you can maybe not walk us through, but tell us some of the most beautiful parts, because I think the website is beautifully done.
Thank you so much. Well, the mission of Parkinson Voice Project is to help people with Parkinson's regain and retain their speech and swallowing. And it's that retain part that is really really why this needs to be in the nonprofit sector, why we needed to start a nonprofit. People with Parkinson's need speech therapy. They need ongoing speech therapy and exercise. And actually, if you go to the top on our program in the heading and go to Speak Out Therapy Program, one thing I'd like to show you is that circle right there. We developed the Speak Out Therapy Program, and it's depicted as a circle because it never ends. And that's how it has to be for people with Parkinson's. They need ongoing speech therapy and speech and swallowing exercise. And what we do, we treat patients in our clinic in Texas, but we want everyone with Parkinson's all over the world to have access to Speak Out Therapy too. So we are training speech language pathologists everywhere in hospitals, universities, rehab clinics, private practices. We even award training grants every spring where we will provide free training to speech pathologists and to graduate students. But when you're dealing with insurance and when people are having to pay for speech therapy, it's really hard for them to receive as much therapy and the ongoing therapy. So what I'm really proud about is that we are training speech language pathologists, but let's say some of them are working in hospitals where they rely on Medicare funding. We provide a lot of resources on our website to enhance the therapy that patients are receiving somewhere else. So for example, somebody might go to a hospital to receive our Speak Out therapy and they're able to get the one-on-one therapy. Well, on our website, we provide daily Speak Out exercises. So we host these sessions 5 days a week. And we also have recordings. So that really helps people to retain their voice. They go through one-on-one therapy, and then we're going to help them to retain it, to maintain the results. And I think that's one of the big things. If you go back to the homepage of our website, and you scroll down, you'll see where it says Parkinson's speech exercises right there on the left. And when you click on that, again, they're hosted 5 days a week. And if you scroll down, you'll see all the recordings. We have over 3,400 people practicing with us every day. This was something we started during the pandemic. I remember that first week we did this in March of 2020, we had 30 people practicing with us. And now it's over 3,400 people within a 24-hour period. They don't all practice live. A lot of them are using the recordings. We have people from all over the world doing their exercises.
I think that's great because it helps individuals, like you said, reach you all over the world who have the ability. So in some ways, sadly, COVID was a good thing for those who can't get out. And even as you well aware and everyone listening, individuals have different journeys with Parkinson, but really need an opportunity to have that opportunity, have this voice, so to say. My mother did have voice issues towards the later part of the progression. So it wasn't something I even kind of thought of, when you think of Parkinson. So that's incredible information. Thank you.
It's really surprising that a lot of people don't know about the speech and swallowing issues, even though 90% will struggle with their speech. And research has shown that 70% of the mortality rate is due to swallowing disorders and Parkinson's. And we are trying our best to change that, to change it, because you really can treat the speech and swallowing, but it takes the one-on-one therapy with daily exercise and regular follow-ups. And that's really hard. So I'm very honored to be helping the Parkinson's community with this. We take speaking for granted. If someone's never had a speech, never had difficulty with their speech, it's harder for people to understand. And I remember many years ago, this was when I was first starting the organization, I had a meeting with a foundation. And as I'm sitting across the table, the director there said, you know, I went through my whole, what we're trying to do, help people with Parkinson's speak better, and how talking, you know, speaking, the muscles we use for speaking are the ones we use for swallowing. And I'll never forget what she said. She said, well, I don't mean to be rude, but who cares? And that was her response. She said, you know, we have people that don't have homes. They are needing food, and you're helping people, you know, to talk, or helping them improve their speech. And I'll never forget that conversation. It's like it was yesterday, even though it was 20 years ago. And if someone hasn't had a speech disorder, you don't really realize how much it impacts you. You can't talk on the phone, you can't work, you can't participate in your medical care, you can't do your volunteer work. I remember after my father passed away suddenly, I actually lost my voice for 4 weeks. Well, and I'm sure you can understand something like that. You and your mom were very close, but when something like that happens, you know, it's amazing how stress can impact the voice. Well, I was a speech language pathologist in private practice, and I wasn't able to do my work. I had small children at the time, and my voice wasn't, you know, it's like having laryngitis, you know, but it was really very humbling to go through that, to think about people with Parkinson's all over the world are losing their ability to speak. And if they don't have treatment, it's not 4 weeks that they can't speak. People with Parkinson's who do not receive treatment, they can live the last 5 years of their life not being able to talk. And that is absolutely devastating. And we don't want that to happen to anybody. And now with Speak Out Therapy, we spent many years developing it. And I think we've refined it. It's an excellent program. It's been clinically proven to be effective. We have now research centers, Speak Out Therapy and research centers across the United States that are housed within university speech clinics, and they are conducting research. So I hope we can have another interview in a few years where I can really talk about the research that's being done on Parkinson's and speech and swallowing. We still have a lot of work
Yeah.
to do.
Well, thank you for the story. And the one that person that said, why do we care, is actually a question I ask in every interview. I ask the individuals with Parkinson, and it's really fascinating to see the answers. And we have to, in my opinion, be a family in this fight and get the awareness out together. And so I have a feeling that motivated you even more to do even more, because they're similar in my belief. So we'll be doing more together, just not just because of that individual, but despite of them. So I
Mhm.
appreciate it.
Well, I think speech is a gift that we really do take for granted. We don't realize, and our program is all about learning to speak with intent, because humans have two motor systems. We have our automatic motor system, and we have our intentional motor system. And what people don't realize, and this doesn't just apply to speech, it applies to any movements that we do throughout the day that are automatic, things we do without conscious effort. So talking and walking. When we're walking, you know, people with Parkinson's really have to concentrate on lifting their knees and heel toe. But without Parkinson's, you know, we just walk. We don't think about it. If I'm going to get out of my chair, I just, you know, get up and start walking. Those are automatic behaviors. Putting on my seatbelt, picking up my knife to cut my, to cut my steak. All of these movements are automatic, but automatic movements are highly dependent on dopamine. And by the time someone with Parkinson's is diagnosed, it's estimated that they have lost 60 to 80% of their dopamine producing cells. And dopamine impacts movements that are automatic. So anything that we normally do without conscious effort, we do automatically. People with Parkinson's are struggling to produce those. But the good news is that humans have two motor systems. The intentional motor system is not as dependent on dopamine. So when people when they focus, when people with Parkinson's focus, concentrate, they're deliberate, they're purposeful, they're intentional. When they really think about it, they can walk better, they can write better, they can talk better, they can swallow better. They're putting on their seatbelt faster, they're able to cut their steak, and they use intent, but they've got to learn how to use intent. So the Speak Out Therapy program is all about strengthening the muscles that we use for speaking and swallowing, and then converting the act of talking and eating, converting speech and swallowing from an automatic function to an intentional act. And when people go through the Speak Out Therapy program, when they begin to understand intent, then it really makes such a big difference in their life. And we have a video called What is Parkinson's? There's one on our website right now, but what I'm going to tell, it's under education and training, and it might actually start playing when we do it right there. But what's happening is we've just revised it. There's going to be a new one.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. There's going to be a new one probably by tomorrow, by the end of this week. And I really explain the automatic and the intentional motor systems. And the new video is 30 minutes long, which I think is a good length. The one up there on the website is longer than that. I'm really excited. We used to have a different name for this, but we changed it to What is Parkinson's, because we thought somebody newly diagnosed is going to go on and Google and say, what is Parkinson's?
Wow.
And so we helped to explain it.
I appreciate it, and I like that you offer a group. I wonder if that's good for some individuals who as you know, I felt alone as a caregiver. My mother felt alone if someone diagnosed, so it's nice to see groups where somebody won't feel that it's just them and that they're alone in this fight. So that's a incredible opportunity, everyone listening to.
The group therapy in that circle under our program, that's a key part of the program, because people go through one-on-one therapy, and they go through one-on-one therapy, and then they're practicing every day, and then once a week they attend a group. And absolutely, there's a sense of belongingness. And it's interesting, throughout our life, we have different groups. Maybe when someone's raising kids, they might be the soccer mom, or you have the people at your work, you have your group there. You may have a group at church as you get older, or maybe you're in college, you've got your fraternity brothers, and you've got other groups. And then as people are getting older, especially with Parkinson's, especially if they struggle with their speech and their swallowing, think about any social environment. It all requires talking and eating usually. And when you're having to really concentrate on that, it can be very challenging. So the groups are important. They're important for several reasons. Something else about dopamine that I don't think people realize is that dopamine impacts our motivation and our drive. So Parkinson's is a movement disorder that is battled by moving, by exercising, working out, not just your speech and your swallowing, but your body. But dopamine impacts our motivation. So if people don't have enough dopamine, they're really struggling with their motivation. They know they need to exercise. They know they feel better when they do, but it's hard for them to get started. And so our groups, that's why they're weekly, because they check in with a group, they're assigned to come to a group. We have 17 different groups right now that meet every week at Parkinson Voice Project. And so people are assigned to a group of their peers. They're assigned to a particular group that we think that they would benefit from the most. And we work on speaking with intent, but we also share resources and they become a support for one another too. It's not easy. Parkinson's is something they're going to have to live with for the rest of their life. And so the groups help with that.
Thanks. Yeah, other important area you just mentioned is voice. We talk about singing, music. My mother,
Yes.
we have music therapy, and I often share. If you go to togetherforsharon.com and scroll towards the bottom, there's one last video that you won't see my mother, but unfortunately, it was towards the end of tougher times of Parkinson's progression. But we had a young lady who would play the guitar and sing, and I played guitar about 20 years more for fun, and I was actually honored that I was able to play with the guitar therapist. So we played the song Memory from Cats because my mother took me. We loved Broadway growing up in New York. And I got to play that song for her. And it was the last time she actually ever spoke. And she said thank you and she loved it. And you might hear that on the video. But
Um,
I didn't want to put her in the video because it was, tough to see what Parkinson did to her. But shows how important voice, speech, and what you're doing now is really just changing the world for the better for so many. So I want to thank you and commend you for that too.
That is neat. And I like that you're showing this Parkinson's sing along. Every Thursday we have a sing along and it's hosted through Zoom. And the more the better. We want everybody to participate in singing. And something that I really think, I've been visiting some people in different retirement communities and memory care centers. And I think that the residents would love the sing along.
Yeah.
So I'd love to get the word out that we want to talk to the social coordinators or the activities coordinators of the different retirement communities, different assisted living communities, and have them post. I mean, many of the places have these media rooms, and it'd be wonderful to post the Parkinson sing-alongs and even the daily speech exercises. The sing-alongs are 30 minutes long, and the daily speak out exercises that we do online are 20-minute sessions.
And what I think is nice too is even if you are virtual doing this, the families can do it too. Like I know my mother had 3 grandchildren, could just picture them all singing along together. It would make an incredible event for the whole family too.
It
So
would be great. That is wonderful. You took such good care of your mother.
I appreciate it. She would have loved you. I wish we had. Yeah, again, that's why I do this. Is I wish we had known at the time. So now I know that others will. So thank you, and everyone listening, please go to parkinsonvoiceproject.org. You'll spend many hours, like I will, on there, seeing such incredible areas to view and to help your loved one, or if you're diagnosed, it'll help yourself. So please check those out. Now I just wanted to shift a little to more about you. This is where we get to the tough topics, news reporting and heavy lifting. Just kidding. That's for a different show. So maybe you could tell us a little bit outside of Parkinson's. We'll obviously talk more about it, but can you list 3 words that describe who you are?
Oh, gosh.
I love the different responses I get from all the individuals.
You do. I'll be honest with you, for the past 24 years or 25 years, all I've done is Parkinson Voice Project. So I would say that I am passionate, determined, and I guess hardworking would be one of them. I will say, though, that my husband and I are going on vacation next
Congratulations.
week, so we're planning a vacation.
I'm honored that you met with me before you left.
Yeah, yeah, right. I should have met with you afterward. I would have another word to describe. But I will say that Parkinson Voice, what we're really focused on now is succession planning. I'm not retiring anytime soon. I can't imagine retiring, but it is so important, especially since Parkinson Voice Project is the only nonprofit solely dedicated on speech and swallowing. It is incredibly important to our board and to me that we protect the organization, that we have it, that it goes on, as long until there's a cure. I hope one day we don't even need Parkinson Voice Project, but we're in really good shape right now. But I am working very hard at trying to just secure it. And it's not just about money. Of course, money is important, and we're building our endowment, and all of that will help the future CEO. But it's just about policies and our guiding principles. How did we get here? For example, we are hosting the online speak out exercises 5 days a week. I think that's quite unusual. I think some organizations might think, well, you don't need to do it 5 days a week. Every Monday, join Parkinson Voice Project. But we understand that people with Parkinson's, they have to do their speech and swallowing exercises every day. If patients go even 3 days without doing their exercises, it could have a significant impact. They can start to choke. They can start to have trouble with their speech. It's that important. And so I never want us to lose that when we get to so in securing Parkinson Voice Project, the board and I are looking at what are the principles that have brought the organization to where it is now? And one of the big questions that we've had is, does the future CEO of Parkinson Voice Project need to be a speech language pathologist? And we've determined that yes, it does, because we need somebody that understands how important it is. It's just not about the money part, what's going to be the best way to help people with Parkinson's not only regain their speech, but help them retain it. I don't know if that's information that you wanted, but it's a big goal of mine over the next 5-10 years.
I do, because that actually is one of the questions, so we can skip the, no, I'm kidding. That's very important. I think the mission and the vision of any organization, coming from a business background myself, is very important, but especially the spearhead or the, well, CEO, because, they kind of lead the vision, mission, but also inspire others to join along. And that's very important from the top to the down to the middle of any organizations. Thanks for sharing that insight. And also, here's an important one. Is there one moment or one most memorable moment that stands out through all of your work so far with awareness?
With awareness, well, I'm so surprised that the pandemic, our organization, our progress probably accelerated by 10+ years through the pandemic. As people have become more tech savvy, we are able to help them more. We are, for example, before the pandemic, our clinic is in Richardson, Texas. So we were able to treat patients who could physically get to our clinic. And now we are treating patients all over Texas. We're training other therapists, but speech pathologists are licensed per state. That's why I say Texas. So now we're able to treat people who don't drive, people who are homebound, people who live in rural areas. Before the pandemic, there could have been people who only lived a few blocks from our clinic, but they couldn't get here. The other thing that I think is really neat is that we have, and your mother would have enjoyed this. We have patients doing their speak out exercises with family members through Zoom, even if they don't live in the same state, even if they don't live in the same country. We have children and grandchildren working on the speech, doing cognitive exercises, just having a conversation. I have a family that they have 3 children, and every evening, and adult children that didn't live in the same town, they take turns. Every evening, someone goes on a Zoom call with their dad. They do 10 minutes of speech exercises, and then they just have fun talking. I also have another family that reads to his grandchildren who don't live in town, and he reads a bedtime story to them. And I love that he does that, and those kids are always going to have those memories, but also he's able to speak and be able to read that bedtime story. So I would say the pandemic, it was a terrible situation for many, but the more we had to rely on technology, there's so much more we can do to help people with Parkinson's now.
And that's a beautiful, and it actually ties into the next area. And I try to bring out the person behind the scenes, but is there someone who helps you during times of struggle? Because obviously this is a tough, it's not the easiest all the time. It might be inspiring behind the scenes. I'm sure your heart is really happy and full when you're helping people, but wonder if there's someone in behind the scenes supporting you too. Because I was a caregiver, and also what tips can you give those listening who are also caregivers?
Mhm. Well, probably my husband and my children. So my children grew up at Parkinson Voice Project. And my husband, of course, I would say I'm very much inspired by my grandfather, who is no longer with us. But I don't know if you've ever heard, I grew up in San Antonio, and part of Fiesta Week in San Antonio, you would have the Ugly King. Have you ever heard of the Ugly
Oh,
King?
glad I did now.
Well, in San Antonio, it's called El Rey Feo, and it was the Ugly King. And the way that you got to be the Ugly King was that you raised whoever raised the most money in a certain amount of time got to be the Ugly King. And you had King Antonio, but then the Ugly King, El Rey Feo, was the king of the poor or those in need. And I was a high school student when my grandfather was crowned El Rey Feo. And we went out to different nursing homes and orphanages, and his platform was Remember the Forgotten Ones. And I would say that I learned a great deal from him. For care partners, I think it is so important. You absolutely need to build your network. When we have our singing group, we have an online sing along, but we have a singing group that meets in here. The care partners are meeting with one another in another room in the clinic, which is very important. Again, that sense of belongingness and needing to be able to talk with other people. I also think, though, that you want to surround yourself with people who are proactive, like you, like you. I think that you need to surround yourself with people who who want to know what resources are out there, who, may need help with it, but really want to go out there and do the best that they can. And it's hard for some people because you have to get past the first shock and what's happening and come to that acceptance phase, just like the different stages of grief. It's the same thing with the care partners. And once you get to that acceptance phase, then you can open yourself up to see what is out there, because we really do have, when we compare not just Parkinson Voice, but to 20 years ago, there really is a lot more. We have a lot more medications, a lot more physicians that know more about Parkinson's, all different types of exercise for people with Parkinson's, the boxing and the dancing, and there's just a lot out there. I do feel for people that don't, I'm in the Dallas area, so we have a lot of resources. And that's another reason why online resources are so important, because you do have people living in the, rural areas that don't have it.
Yeah, I must feel like when someone, if they're given a diagnosis, should be given not just your organization's information, but be told or aware of what could happen. And the problem again is there's no cure because everyone's journey is so different. But I wouldn't have even thought of voice as one of the major issues when, you have the physical, the mental, and then it's almost put in a back burner, which it shouldn't, should be at the forefront. So that's what we're going to try and do. And I think you might know, but Together for Sharon's been around since 1/1/2020, and one of the first individuals and organizations I listed as a resource was your organization. And I just hope after today, everybody listening to visits the site, supports you, whether donation or attending events, and shares this. I always say this can't end this conversation just after this day. Has to be something that's continually shared until we have a cure. Now, if you were asked to write a script to a movie, this one you love, follow, about your life story, what would you call it?
Oh, gosh. I don't know.
I don't,
Doesn't the word intent have to be in there?
and voice, intent.
Yeah.
That might be a drama though, thriller.
There you go. Speak out, speak with
As
intent.
as an attorney in the criminal field, if intent is literally the Bible, that's a different
Yeah,
meaning.
that has a different meaning.
Okay.
And I did want to mention on our website, and you did show the page on there under the education, we have a number of lectures by Parkinson's experts on different topics, not just related to speech. So with deep brain stimulation or the boxing, physical exercise, there's a great one by the founder of Dance for PD, a wonderful lecture. Another one about medication. So if people are needing some general information, they can also look at those lectures. And I really like the lectures because it's a video, so you see the person speaking. You don't just see the PowerPoint and hear, but you actually see the person speaking. I'm a very visual person, so.
Me too. That's the only way I passed the bar exam. I needed to actually, I wrote a book and it's all diagrams, like the whole, because I needed to see the reasoning and all of that. And voice therapy is great too for lawyers, because we're all needing to practice our oral speeches and things daily.
Speaking with intent, that's a great example. I'm going to use
Yeah.
that example.
That's-
Attorneys giving their closing argument. That
Well,
is an example of
yeah.
speaking with intent.
Yeah, I mean, you can use speech for every single thing, not just Parkinson's, which is why even caregivers, after they're through stress, I mean, I probably went through depression, grieving, everything, even today. The only reason I'm able to function is because of individuals like you out there. And this helps me just to know that one more person has heard about my mother and now might be aware of Parkinson's changes the world for us. So thank you. And the final question I had is if you were asked to, actually, we did that. This one you actually answered when you did the written, but if you could leave the Parkinson's community today with some words of encouragement, what would they be?
I want everyone with Parkinson's to know that they can get better. Parkinson's is a movement disorder that is battled by moving. So I encourage you to go out there, find the experts. So that is important, that you've got a care team of people that know about Parkinson's, know how to treat it. And most importantly, that you're working with people that do believe and know that you can get better. You can get better. Even somebody with severe Parkinson's, everybody can make some improvement. It's going to be different for everybody. Parkinson's is so different, but we can make things better. It definitely is hard work, but I don't want anybody out there to think that it's just hopeless. It's not. There are areas that we can improve, and definitely speech, we can make it better.
And how can everyone listening reach out to you if they had a question?
I would love for them to reach out to me. So our website is parkinsonvoiceproject.org. And then during our online Speak Out Home practice sessions, we also post an email there where people can send an email. And I guess you might be able to guess what that email is. It's intent@parkinsonvoiceproject.org. But anybody practicing with me online, we put the email there, and I love to get notes from people. We also have a chat feature during the online practice sessions. And so it's so wonderful to see everybody and where they're practicing from, and they're making friends with one another.
I just want to thank you for your time and the entire organization, everyone behind the scenes for helping us bring this together. It's an important message. We have a little message for you and everyone listening. We love you. We support you. We care a lot about you, and you're never alone. I, along with Samantha and the entire Parkinson Voice Project, will advocate for you. And together our voices are so much stronger. And I always say I'm just getting started, because even a year ago when we met, or when my mother passed, and I sought out different references and people who are out there. I mean, that's what keeps me going. So I just want to thank you again. I'm so grateful for your time, your friendship, and I hope to also continue this conversation much longer into the future. We didn't get time to talk about the national plan to end Parkinson's, which I know you were a big part of, and want to thank you for your work on that. And I just, again, so grateful for all you do. And we need someone like you out there leading the way in this important topic. So thank you again.
Well, we're grateful to you, and we need a lot more of you out there doing the work that you're doing. So
I,
thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Thank you everyone too for listening. Please share this. Remember, this conversation cannot stop after just a show. It has to continue till we find a cure. This has been another episode of Q&A with Sharon's son, George. Please stay tuned. We have so many more incredible guests coming up shortly. Thanks, everyone.